Welcome back. This is the Book Asylum podcast release party, part 2 for the day today. I just want to say, hey, everybody, I'm JL Folk, and with me today I have John Cady. Did I say that right?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, good. Because
A
I have
lot
a
of a
bad
lot of peop
habit.
a lot of
I
people get it wrong. You got it right first try.
I have a terrible, terrible habit of mispronouncing people's last names. It sucks. But
I've been Caddy, Cody, Candy, everything you can think of except my name.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
you
and
got
it's
it.
really it's 4 letters. How hard is that? It's 4
Right.
letters. So, we are bringing him to you today for his debut book, and you have, Angela of Death. I always
Mhm.
wanna say Angel of Death, but it's Angela of Death.
Google wants to say Angel of Death too.
Yeah, because that A is really it's hidden, and,
Yes.
but I love your cover, which we'll talk about that in a little bit, but I wanna hear so this is a young adult book, so, like, it's
Mhm.
teenager it's geared toward teens, um, and it's your first book. Did you want to write young adult?
I did. So I started out like my favorite. I'm an English teacher by day. my,
Oh,
my
okay.
I teach high school in a juvenile detention center. So my favorite book is Catcher in the Rye. So I
Yeah.
read that every year, and I always when I first started writing, I tried to write Catcher in the Rye, but not like in
Yeah.
that voice or whatever. And then it never took off. So eventually, I wanted to, but I stuck with the YA. Like I wanted to stick with that
Mhm.
age group. So that was where I guess I fell in love with Catcher in the Rye, and I always considered that a YA. So
Okay.
yeah,
So it was just always, it's your I mean, you obviously have to really like kids if you're one teaching them, two you're teaching them English, and three in a detention center.
yes,
Oh, God bless you.
thank you.
All I can
Yeah,
say,
I'll say
thank
he
you for
has.
what you do.
He
Because
has blessed me
I
with that.
worked corrections in adult
Oh
detention. I'm good. I'm done
yeah.
with them people. Yeah, I can't imagine being with the young kids. So this is as we've said, this is your debut
Mhm.
book. So my question is, you and I are both Gen X, we're older, we're pushing the big 50.
Mhm.
What took you so long?
So I've been actually I started working towards this is a probably 25 years in progress. Like I've been working at chipping away at this dream for a long time. But I used to instead of going like the publishing route or this, I went instead of bringing it directly to like a publisher like Water Tower Hill. I tried to go the agent route. And so I thought, I had it in my head way back, for the longest time, you need an agent or else you're not going to get it published. And then, one thing led to another. So it's been a while. Like I've been working towards it for a while, but
Yeah.
only lately in recent years has it started like, start to materialize, I guess you could say.
Well, when we were younger and going to libraries and stuff, when we were teenagers and really got into this, you did need an agent
Yeah.
back then, and I mean, it's really not that, we're not like that old. I mean,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
so, so you can just hold your horses right there.
Yeah.
But, the whole indie author, the indie publishing, um, it's all new,
Yeah.
and a lot of people just do not realize that, you don't have to have an agent anymore.
Right.
Now, is it your publisher is a small press?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Um, so which is awesome because I got small press publishing as well. And I really, really enjoy it because it's like you get all of the benefits of the publishing, with them. And then but you get to control your own marketing. You get to control a lot
Mhm.
of the things in your book.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
and it's
have
and
you had to change much from its original version?
no, so basically it was originally book 1, right? Like the way this was, like book 1 when I was shopping this around, this is the length that it was, and then and then when I realized, oh, no agents were interested in it, I'm like, oh, well, maybe I need to make it longer. So then I made it longer. So I made it into a bigger book, and then once I brought it to Water Tower Hill, Josh said, "Hey, can we break it up into two books?" And I'm like, "That's originally what it was." So it's
Oh,
one of those
nice.
things. Yeah. So
Yeah, it
it,
worked out.
yeah, it hasn't changed. The story hasn't changed much in that sense. I mean, Heather Daughtry. I always say it wrong. Daughtry.
Yeah.
His
Yeah, they got a rough last name.
yeah. She's been fantastic editor. Like she's changed it enough that it's like I loved how it was, and then after she got through with it, I was like, "Ooh, I like it even more." I didn't think I would like it more, but now I like it more. So
Oh, nice.
it's
Well,
changed.
that's good.
It's changed in that sense. It's come a long way in that sense too.
So this is not just a one book, one part, one standalone. This
No,
is 2,
this
3,
is well
20?
three. So that'd be great. Uh, as of now, it's going to be 3 books, and hopefully the story continues.
Right. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Okay, so now I need to know, what's the background on this bad boy? Give us the synopsis of this first book.
So the synopsis. So Angela Ramos. So she's kind of a loner, and she lives in like a lot of people. I never specify, but basically everyone's like, "Oh, she lives in Los Angeles, doesn't she?" And I'm like, I didn't put I didn't want anybody's city to be singled out, so I was like, sure, wherever.
Yeah, didn't
But
want to
it's
nail it down.
yeah, it could be any neighborhood. But so basically, it's an urban setting, as my students would say, the hood. And she's trying to join a street gang. With some of her friends are in a street gang. She's trying to join the street gang just so she's not a loner anymore. And because it's dangerous sometimes to be a loner in certain neighborhoods, so she knows that. So she's trying to join the gang, but at the last second, she like chickens out in the initiation. Like the final stage is you got to kill someone, and she can't do it. So when they said, all right, well, we're glad you didn't. Her friend is like, I'm glad you didn't do that. So when
Yeah.
she leaves, when she has to leave the house that she's in. So when she leaves, she actually accidentally gets gunned down in a drive-by from a rival gang that was coming to shoot that house up.
Dang.
Yeah, and so she's wakes up and she's looking down at her corpse, and she's like, total shock. But then, to add to the shock, there's a archangel Michael sitting next to her, saying, "Hey, you're gonna be an angel of death now. You're gonna come with me. You're gonna take lives, and also you gotta save the souls of your friends because they headed down the wrong path."
That's
And so
crazy.
that kind of just sets the tone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's building.
So,
Yeah,
I'm
go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead.
So it's building towards. So I kind of, because of the angel aspect, I kind of doing some research. I pulled some from the Bible, like whatever they had about angels in there, and like so it almost played out perfectly. According to the Bible, there was a battle in heaven, and that's where like a lot of the Satan and some of his angels came down to earth. So
Right.
meanwhile, there's going to be in the storyline there's going to be a second battle, and so he's building up his forces, and Michael's here building up the forces of good, which Angela is now part of. So that's
Oh,
setting up
so
towards it. Yeah.
she's not gonna be like, I mean, I guess everybody just assumes that the Death Reaper is just a bad person or bad thing all the way around when all he's really just doing his job. He, she,
Right.
well, she in this case.
Yep.
And what what made you use the angel of death as a, the reaper? What made you use that as a main character?
So I was I had a dream one night, like literally, like when you do get around and read chapter 2 is the dream I had basically. So I had a dream one night where I was in a nursing home with, it was the same nursing home that my grandmother was in, like the same like room that she was in, but it was a elderly gentleman in the bed next to me, and not my grandmother. So I'm like sitting there, I'm like, who is this guy? But I'm not thinking it's a dream at the time because you don't know you're in a dream. So I'm like, who is this guy? And then all of a sudden, this young Latina girl, kind of dressed like in the kind of clothes that would see a teenager like dressed in, like from that era. And so she comes in and just like looks at me and then kisses him, and then all of a sudden he's dead and she leaves, and I'm like, what the heck just happened? And then I like I do every time, like every time,
Yeah.
every time I have a dream like that, I woke up and wrote it down. But like,
Oh, that's so smart. I can't.
Yeah. So well,
I never do.
my wife always says, just type it into your phone. I'm like, I can't. I'm not. I'm old school. I'm like, I need to write it down. So
Yeah,
it's
give
one of
me
those things.
paper.
Yeah. So it's but and prior to that, not the same day because it would be way too Hollywoodish if Hollywood ending. But like prior to that, a lot of my students they they don't read when they're on the outs, like, they call it on the outs when they're not, so they
Yep.
don't read out there, but when they got in here, like, just to pass the time, they read a lot, so
Yeah, there's nothing else to do.
right, and I had one particular group that was just heavy into, like, fantasy and, like, Hunger Games, you name it, and so they were saying when they were I was like, "Oh, you guys are really into this," one day, and I was saying that because they were helping each other read and stuff. It was beautiful, like, when those kids shine, like, it's bright, and I love it. And
Yes.
some of the best moments I'm not even involved in. I'm just watching them help each other read, and it's amazing. But to get back to the point, so they were they were reading like the fantasy, like eating it like crazy. And so
Hmm.
one kid said the only thing that stinks is we can't really relate to any of the main characters or whatever. Like
Yeah.
none of them are from the hood. None of them look like us. None of, and then I'm like,
Yeah.
hmm. I'm like, at the time, I was still like in, I'm gonna write Catcher in the Rye mode. So I'm not, I'm not thinking of Twilight or whatever
Right.
you're talking about. I'm just glad you're reading. And then I don't know, I don't even know how long after it was that I had that dream, and I'm like, huh, okay, well, I'm gonna I'm gonna write that down. And then it just turned into
Turned
that.
into this.
Yeah.
Into this amazing journey that you're about to embark on.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
This is, I know it says Facebook user, but I know this is Lee Edwards. Hi,
Yeah.
Lee, again. And
Lovely.
then this is Naul Latore. Latore. I again, I probably foobarred that last name, but hey Noel, how are you? He's a regular on here. Him and Lee both like to watch our show, and
Oh, good.
um, you know, your book, brand new.
Hmm.
He's my name is easy to butcher. Yes, it is. That was Noel. um, your book, your first round. What an experience.
Oh,
And your kids, the kids at the detention center get to see it. So kind of tell me what's going on in your head. Are you okay? Are you bewildered? Are you
so I'm like, my head has not stopped spinning like since like the pre-orders began because
Yeah.
it's one of those things where prior to this I wrote I had the my first book that got published was a middle grade horror novella, kind of like a Goosebump style book,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
that I mean that I was just so happy to be published that I didn't it didn't sell as well as I was hoping it would, but it's still I was just all excited no matter what.
Right.
And then all of a sudden like this one just like has been selling like
Took off.
crazy, and I'm like, I don't and my wife and I would just be sitting there, we're like, "What's happening?" Like, I don't understand because it was already like it did really well on pre-sales, and I'm like telling her, I'm like, "No one knows who I am. No one knows
Yeah.
what it's about except for that little paragraph." And I mean,
That's all they care about.
yeah,
That little
and the cover,
paragraph sells it.
like you said, the cover is beautiful.
Yeah, which I'm definitely going to
Yeah,
as soon as I figure out where the heck I am. There we
yeah,
go.
the cover,
I am showing this cover because this thing is gorgeous. This is your page.
yeah,
This look at the detail. I love the detail in this bad thing, this bad boy, which is there's the A that I was talking about.
yeah,
But this just has some of the most amazing detail. That sword alone, the Reaper sickle alone, I love it. I
yeah.
love it.
Susan
And it's
Roddy, she's talented artist. Like
who was it?
Susan Roddy, like
Okay.
did I say her right name? I think I said her last name right, but she's phenomenal. Like I was privy to sitting in the meeting for the artwork, and like she was showing it, and I'm like, this is amazing. Like I couldn't even I was getting emotional. I'm like, you picture
Yeah.
these things in your head, and then when you see something like that on the cover, you're like, oh wow. Like
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to walk by that in a store. Like if I saw it, I'm like, I need to see this. What is this about?
Yep.
And
It
that's
is.
exactly what I
It,
was hoping for.
you got a great color scheme too. Awesome. And then the fact that you can see her hair right
Oh yeah,
here coming out right there, coming out of the hood, and you're like, "Oh, that's a chick."
yeah,
Everybody assumes the Reaper is a guy.
right.
And you have it in paperback and hardcover and on Kindle. Look at that.
Yeah,
The whole kit and caboodle.
yeah. So yeah,
Oh,
Susan Roddy. I got the name right. Yes. I'm horrible
there
with
we
last
go.
names. I'm just
Oh,
always been horrible with last name.
I
First
butcher.
name I'll forget. I'll remember her first name forever. And actually I remember the last name Roddy. But Susan Roddy, very very talented, unbelievably talented.
Yep. There's that. There's hardcover. Yes. We have a hardcover for this one.
Yep.
And then a Facebook user, kudos to the artist. I have no idea who is leaving these comments, so I apologize. Oh, no, left those comments. Hardcover, nice. Kudos to the artist. And then this one is Lee, amazing cover. I don't know why this isn't updating as they're putting them in there, but whatever.
Yeah, and I guess there's gonna
Me and technology do not get along most of the time.
and I guess there's gonna
So
be an audio book, which again blows my mind. Like usually,
that's good. That was my next
yeah.
question. Was there going to be an Audible? Because a lot of our people would rather have Audible. You
Mm,
still have those diehard. I have to have paper.
yeah.
And then you have those that are like, I can do Kindle. I only started being able to do Kindle and Audible because I don't have much room. So I have to, excuse me, I have to save the room that I do have. So Kindle is my way of being able to have all these books and be able to read all these books. So I will definitely be getting this bad boy. Because I'm really excited about it. And this is a two. Do you know if it's gonna be more, or because you have is are both of them out right now?
No, so book 2 comes out September 10th, and I'm
September.
working on book 3.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Um, so now that you still you haven't even been a week.
right.
It's not because this just came out the 25th. So how, do you want to continue? I mean, obviously, you know how grueling the process is as
Yeah.
far as writing and stuff like that. So, is this something you're going to continue with in your spare time?
Yeah, that's definitely yeah, no matter what, I'd love to I'm gonna continue with this. So
Yeah.
it's because it's a passion. Like it's right there where like hobby meets passion, and it
Yeah.
leans more into passion these days, and it's just you know
Some days it's like work because you're like, I'm on my fourth book and I'm sitting here and I'm just like, I don't know. Some days I cannot write this book anymore. And then some days I'm like, oh yeah, clickety clack, getting it
yeah,
going.
yeah.
So it's one of those things where you're just like, I just don't know. I don't know how much more I can put into this.
Yeah. I think you'll
What
be
is going
surprised wherever inspiration pops in there, and
Right.
yeah,
So Lee has a question.
okay,
Do you find it easier to keep writing straight through? Um, because those timelines seem fast. Well, I don't know if you heard before Lee, but he had the first two books written simply because you were looking for an agent and thought the book needed to be longer, and that's why you were getting rejected,
hmm
right?
yep.
So that's kind of, but now how do what's your average? Do you have an average word length a week, or what's your goal, I should say? What is your
Um,
goal?
Not so much. So if I get 500 words a day, that is a lot for me. But
Mhm.
I try to at least do that. My time for writing is when my wife and my kids go to sleep. So then
Mhm.
I'm not taking away from like family time or anything. So,
Right.
and then I can sit down and I could, like I said, I could crank out 500 words, or if I get 200 words, I'm still happy that I got some words and
Something.
yeah, moving. Yeah, they'll be.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, they'll be nice when I write like a paragraph and I'm like, that's garbage, and then I'll throw it away, and then I'm like, I don't have it tonight, and then tomorrow I'll have it.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? I don't throw those paragraphs away. I kind of have a file where it's like cuts, things
Yeah,
that I've cut out because I might not need it right now, but I might want it later.
yeah. I mean,
It might fit somewhere later.
the only ones I throw away is like sometimes like when I get full of myself for like a minute, and I'm like, ooh, well, this is gonna be like I'm slipping in the Catcher in the Rye mode again. And it's like, dude, get over it. You're not Salinger. You're
Yeah.
John. You're
So is he would you say that he was your muse for wanting to become an author, or
yeah.
was it others?
Yeah, for the longest time, it was him. It was that, but then it was only specifically just that book because I got his other stuff, and I'm like, it just didn't have. I think it was just Holden's voice. I think that had me like, oh, I could just I devour that book, and then like when I grab his other things, and he didn't write many other things, but when the things I did grab, I was like, this just doesn't have the magic
Mhm.
of the other one. Like I want to write stuff that has that magic that you can just like almost put yourself, oh, this person sounds like me, or this person thinks like me. And
Yeah.
sometimes when I'm reading, I could be reading great books from like a Hemingway or whoever, and I'm like, I can tell this is great, but this doesn't sound like me. Like I can't relate to this. So I kind of wanted to write books like that. And so,
Well, I mean, I think it's really awesome that you like actually listen to the kids that you work with every day. And they're like, "Yeah, this is cool and all, but this doesn't represent me." And you were like, "Psh, challenge accepted.
yeah.
One moment, please." And you just sat there and typed it all out for them. I really like that.
Challenge accepted from the middle-aged white dude from
Yeah.
from the suburbs.
Who has
Let me see
no
what I can
clue
do.
what hood means. No.
But it was so I brought in one of my copies. Like I put the book. I brought in one of my copies and put it on my bookshelf in my room. And
Mhm.
kid walks in there and he goes, "Wait a minute, this is you?" And I'm like, I said, "Yeah." And so he said, "Can I bring it back to my hut?" And that's what he calls his room or whatever.
Mhm.
So he he never reads. Like he loves things like Twilight and Hunger. He loves all those things, but he doesn't read. And so I'm like, "Yeah, you can take it back." So he came back the next day and he said, "Yo, that first chapter is fire." And I'm like, "Oh,
Well, good for you that you got through the first
yeah,
chapter, bro.
right." So and he goes, "It's a long chapter." And I'm like, "Yeah, I got a little crazy." But I said, I said that you thought it was good. And he goes, "Yeah, I know it's fire. You're like really good." And he goes, "I told the others." And I'm like, "Oh, all
Oh,
right." I'm
oh, you
like,
better be bringing in some more.
"Yeah, yeah, exactly." Yeah, well,
Hi, Dungeon
so
Dan.
so the cool thing is, my few different people, including my publisher, have donated copies of the books to the unit, so the kids,
Nice.
so they all have one, and they don't even have to leave it at the they can take it home with them when they leave.
That is wonderful.
Yeah, so I'm
That
psyched.
is a really good program that you have been. Oh my God, you could really start something there.
Hopefully, I mean, it'd be great. Like I
Get
tell
some
them,
other authors and stuff who might want to donate their books for the kids to read.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
That would be, I mean, that's a great charity to donate to.
Thank
Or,
you.
donate, money so that you guys can go out and buy books or what have you. But I'm
Yeah,
sure you could find an author that would, I mean, I'd throw you a couple copies of my books, so that
yeah,
you could give them to the kids and they'd be like, oh yeah, this girl's crazy. I like, stuff like
yeah.
that. Dungeon Dan says he's late to the party, but he's here. What cell block is this? This is the X block where all the lifers are. So, as far as when you get 5 minutes you're writing, do
Mhm.
you do anything else to kind of get yourself in the zone? Do you have a ritual before you start writing? Is there something you need to have, eat or drink next to you?
Um, no, I wish I could say that I listen to music, but if I put music on, I'm focused on the music. Like I can't.
It's a
I
distraction.
always want to be one of those people that can have music going in the background, but I just know that if I'm sitting there like and the Beatles are on the background, I'll be like, I might end up writing some of their lyrics in my notebook, and I'm like, no, dude, you know. So I can't. I wish I keep trying to do like, and even like instrumental stuff in the background, but it's just it doesn't. I get too distracted. But no, normally it's just I. So I have. I'll pull it out. I always have this in my pocket. Like I've been having these like mini notebooks in my pocket for I don't know how many years now. My wife could tell you. I probably have like
Hmm.
50 in my closet. But those, it's just one of those things that if it strikes me, then I'll sit down and I'll write it. Sometimes I'll literally be in my car driving home, and I'm like, oh crap, you know what?
Yeah.
I have the internal thing going on in my head, and
Yep.
so I've pulled into parking lots before and just sat there writing in my notebook, and people are probably like, who's this guy? Private investigator? What's going on? But yeah, so I
That's
have
awesome.
no set routine, and almost I mean, hope maybe further on in my career there will be a set routine. As of now, it's just whenever it strikes.
Hmm.
I mean, not when like, which is like sometimes it'll strike during class, and I'm like, I just gotta remember this. Gotta remember this until lunch.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah,
I can't. That's my problem. Oh, I'm in the shower. I had a great idea for a story or for a line in my book. I'm washing my hair. I'll be fine. It'll be fine and for the next 5 minutes until I get out. Gone.
yeah,
It's like I must have got hit with that little uh Men in Black laser mind eraser before I left the room or left the shower because it's just nowhere to be found. I cannot remember anything. I need to be like you and carry books around because that's a really good idea, especially for someone who's new into writing.
yeah. And I
You've done
some
it for like ever?
yeah, like I can't even. I don't know. So probably easily 20 years now. So it's just like those. I have this spot, and my wife laughs at me because I call it my important box. It's in the closet, and it's a cardboard box that she goes, if we ever have a house fire, that's gone. And I'm like, true. I'm like, but it's filled with these like little notebooks, and they're just some of the things never turned into anything. I didn't turn them into. That's not because no one wanted them. I just didn't turn them into anything yet.
But you don't know if it
Right.
could be because, and if you don't write it down and it could have been something, then you're like, oh, that's the one that I should have wrote down.
Right.
But, um, so you're new to the scene
Hmm.
and you don't even have a website yet.
No.
How old are your kids like young or older?
My kids at
Uh,
home or my students?
your kid, either. I know your
Oh,
students are going to be obviously under the age of 18.
yeah. So my kids at home. My daughter is 16 and my son's 13.
Okay, so they're around the age that you're writing to.
Yeah.
What do they think?
My son, he every day he used to bring my other book to school, but he'd be reading Goosebumps instead of mine. And then I'm always like, I wrote one.
Ungrateful swine.
Yeah, I'm like, I wrote one, right? And I'm like, it's literally in your bag. I'm like, if it's this. If you're not gonna read it, at least like place it on your desk. So
Yeah.
like maybe
Make
like
it look like, I don't know, bend the pages a little bit, make it look like you read it.
yeah, or maybe the kid
Make
next
me
to you.
feel a little good.
Yeah, or maybe the kid next to you will be like, "Hey, what's that?" But now that they're at the age for this, I'm gonna like duct tape this to his hand, so he's gonna have
Yeah.
to, you know,
You you will carry this around.
yes, you will get this tattoo.
Yes. Angel Ramon, he's another one who is real big in our community. Thank you so much for joining us. He says hi.
Hello.
So he's usually one who's got some really good questions, but yeah, and we already asked the words per day, and it's around 500. Thank you very much. That man can write out like 2-3,000 words per day. Yeah.
Oh,
Dungeon Dan says, love the book cover, John. Looking into your bio, wonder if this story is based on someone you know or is it a cautionary tale?
so Angela's not necessarily based on someone I know. It's just honestly, I don't even. The only reason I even wrote her as a young lady is because of the dream I had that I had referenced earlier. But other than that, like I normally my characters are male just because I don't want to seem ingenuine if I'm writing from a, the a female perspective. But
Mhm.
it was one of those things like that worked, and then but Sean, the other main character in it, so the chapters jump back and forth between the two narrators. So Sean is pretty much based on myself from my high school years, but
Mhm.
obviously it's takes place nowadays, but my
Do I
same
hear
the same mindsets.
do I hear Brooklyn in your voice?
No, no, I'm
Where?
from just south of Boston.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
Because I hear a little bit, but just not real, not a whole lot.
I did live in New York for like 4 years. I went to school out there, but I didn't. I only one of my buddies is from Brooklyn, but he used to make fun of my Boston accent all the time. So
Yeah, I hear it's a big thing out there.
yeah,
Oh, dang it.
what you got?
Sorry, dogs. So Angels wants to know, what do you have planned next?
So book two is coming out in September 10th. And book three, I think we're shooting for 6 months after, but nothing's set in stone on that date. But yeah, the my dream is to keep going with the storyline as long as they'll let me write it. Let me put it that way.
I am sure that you can definitely, because you picked a great topic. It's the angel of death. Well, Angela of death. And Angela is going to have to pass the torch at some time.
True.
So there's another story arc or storyline or whatever. But yeah, I mean, you really could keep it going indefinitely as long as you can write about something interesting. But I mean, do you have, like I was talking about earlier, like the writer's block or anything like that? But I don't, not writer's block. I just find that the story has taken it self to about a point where it's one of those boring parts in like a TV show or in the book where you're like, this isn't my favorite part. How do I make it enticing?
Yeah,
Do you find that?
yeah. So that's the tough part of. So when I'm writing these longer stories, because I've had some short stories published too, but when I'm writing these longer ones, you're right. It's like one of those things. I think in movie mode because I went to
Yeah.
so when I was out at school in Manhattan, I was at film school. So
Hmm.
I was my focus was on screenplays. So I'm always thinking like boom, 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 boom. No
Right.
downtime. But I'm like, you're writing novels now, man. There's got to be a downtime, or it just doesn't make sense. People
Yeah.
need to have downtimes, and
Yeah,
so
they can't be on 10 all the time.
yeah. And then my problem with those, like, not problem, but when it comes to those downtimes, again, in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, now I'm gonna impress everyone with my what I can do with a
With
downtime.
my intellect
Yeah,
and
and then
my big words.
yeah, and it's like yeah, I sit there like sometimes I'll throw a word out there, even though I know what the word means. I'm like, Google,
Yeah.
am I using
Where's
this?
my Webster's dictionary online?
Am I flexing muscles I don't have?
I, I just read a book like that. It was actually geared towards that same age group, young adult, and actually the storyline was more for Goosebumps readers, which
Oh
is younger
yeah.
than 13, than the young adult. So we're talking grade school. The storyline was kind of like that and all the stuff that was in it, but the words that he used were even too big for the young adult. And I
Oh
was like, you got to pick an age group because you're really giving me whiplash here.
yeah.
But so Dungeon Dan wants to know, he's our horror guy. He has a
Mhm.
Real Nine podcast. It's coming out in April. We're really excited about it. He does all things horror, him and Kevin. What's the horror level or the gore level, especially with it being a young adult book? How far can you go?
So yeah, so the horror level is I mean, there is a lot of death in it, but it's not like slasher type. It's like
Have
she
you ever heard
kills.
of splatterpunk?
Yeah, yeah.
Is it
So it's
anything
not.
like that?
No, it's not even the pro. Like I tried writing a splatterpunk story because a lot of the short stories that I published are they're horror. Well, they're all horror.
Uh-huh.
The short stories were all horror, and
Yeah.
so I've tried splatterpunk before, and it's like, what are you doing, dude? Like you don't have. you don't have this in you. You just don't. Like when I first started writing horror, and I will definitely go back to this question. I'm sorry. When I
No,
first
you're
started
fine.
writing horror, my sister is my beta reader, so she read my first short story, and she's like, "Well written, but there's no one died in it." And I'm like, "Well, no one has to die." And she goes, "Yeah, they do. It's horror." And I'm like, "Well, I don't want to kill anybody."
I
And she goes,
forgot about that. I'm sorry.
"Yeah." I go, "Well, I don't want to kill anyone." She goes, "Well, you don't want to write horror then?" And I'm like,
Oh my
"Receive."
God, she is good.
Yeah.
You gotta keep her.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'll keep her around a little bit. So I started, killing people off, but even like nothing was like too crazy, it was the, run of the mill murders and stuff. But so I tried to do one of those because everyone online was talking about the splatter punk and it was getting like everybody was talking about. So I'm like, oh, I can try that. And then like every time I tried, it's like, stop, stop.
Uh,
This wouldn't scare anybody. Stop.
well, and I was gonna say, did you do any homework? Like read any other people who have written in the splatterpunk genre?
I did. Yeah. It did. And
I'm like, oh yeah, my book 4 is gonna rival splatterpunk. No, it ain't. I cannot be that sadistic. Some of these people are sick.
right. Right, like,
So I don't have it in me, believe it
I'm
or
the
not.
guy that'll watch, like, Saw, and I'm like, "I don't understand this. Why is this is who thought of that? Like, why did someone think of that?" It's
I
like
that well, and I think the same thing. It's like I who thinks of these things? And it's supposed to be fake. I
right.
don't I can't even imagine if this was happening in real life. So your gore level is
But,
kind of
yeah,
safe
so
then, right?
it's very safe and, like, horror level, like, honestly, like, book 2 is gonna get a little scarier, but, like, still not I wouldn't put it as, like, hardcore like, it's there's demons. Demons come into play in book 2. Whereas now, like, she's mostly fighting like Satan's angels, which don't look really any different from the other angels. But once the demons come in, then I got a little experimental with how they look, and I kind of like I didn't feel like it wasn't one of those. What are you doing, dude? Like it actually, when I wrote it, I'm like, ooh,
You felt good about it?
that kind of looks cool. And then I gave him like this weapon, this kind of knife that they use. So it's again, it's not horror on the level of like you wouldn't call it if they made it into a movie, you wouldn't call it a horror movie.
Or is it
But
more like religious or paranormal horror?
it's not like when I think paranormal, I think ghosts, but like it's more like I guess it's more like if you fight like someone fighting demons or something like that.
Metaphysical.
Yeah,
Outside of the
yeah.
physical. Yeah.
There's definitely a lot of biblical references. Like a lot, my faith plays into it a lot, but it's not like in shoving it down your throat. It's one of those things
Right.
where it's like it plays with the story, like the whole storyline. A lot of it, like I was mentioned earlier, like the battle for heaven, like where they got, where they got thrown down or whatever, that
Right.
happened in the Bible, so that kind of
Yes.
plays into my story. And so, but other than that, it's not. I don't get too preachy or anything.
It's
I
an
just,
important part of the story
yeah,
because you are dealing with death and
yeah,
afterlife. And it does, because everybody wonders, do we really have, so you are getting into some of that.
yeah.
Um how much well, Dungeon Dan said like a scary detective story.
No,
It's still
I'm trying
it's
to think of a
calm.
scary detective story and like how I would compare it. I can honestly, and I don't want to sound like it's such a cliche answer, but I can't think of anything that it's like really.
Okay.
It's one of those. I know that's a
It's
lame
on its
answer,
own
but
level.
yeah,
Okay.
it's kind of a lame answer, but I really can't off the top of my head. Anyways, I can't think of anything like
It's
that.
not going to give the kids nightmares is pretty much what you're telling me.
Right? Oh yeah, no, it won't. It won't.
so,
It won't.
so it's safe for children.
Yeah,
So how much I kind of wanted to know what references that you used for like the spiritual stuff. Did you look into just the Bible, or did you do like some other religion searches for what they believe their angels to look like and their demons to
yeah,
look
a
like?
little bit of
Okay.
all that. Yeah, so
Oh, okay.
I mostly I did pull most of it from like I leaned more so on the Bible, but I also
Right.
did a lot of research on angels on like you said what the different how the different religions depict angels, and it's very
Right.
similar across the board, like how they
Yeah.
view angels and whatnot. And so
It is very much.
yeah,
A lot of different religions kind of really, it's all the same. It's just different names.
yeah, which made it cool. Like it's because it's
Yeah.
not you're not I can't picture like anyone who is a believer. I can't picture too many of them being like, well, that's not how it is, because it's
Right.
one of because it's
Who
kind of like I
knows?
said, it's kind of similar across the board.
Yeah. Angel Ramon said, when you read for pleasure, if you get 5 minutes to read for pleasure, what genres do you enjoy reading?
Now I like horror a little more because I've started like that's how I got a few years ago. That's how I kind of got into like making progress with my writing journey, should I say? So I read a lot of Paul Tremblay. He's become one of my favorite authors now, and I'll go
Hmm.
back to every now and then. I'll go back to like some like Game of Thrones and whatnot. But it's one of I jump around from books to like I have my everyone has a to be read file or whatever, but I have like
Oh, God.
three or
Yeah.
four different books going on that I have not finished, and I'm like, and it drives my
Yes.
wife crazy. She's like, I don't know how you do that. Like, I'll pick up a book and I'll just be able to read.
Oh,
I'll
it's
remember where
easy.
I left off, and then it's like nothing happened. She's like, she has to go through a book, and she reads way more often than I do. So it's like she
But
flies
it's
through books.
I like the multiple books because it's like, okay, when I was here, I was reading this, and if you get bored with the story, you can put it down and go to another one, and oh yeah, I remember where this is. Yeah, I because I do that too. Dungeon Dan said, fine, fine, I get it. Buy the book if I want to find out. Well played, John. And
I
I
like-
believe this is probably, I don't know, it's probably Lee Edwards. Yep, I was correct. He said sorry if this was asked or answered yet, which it wasn't, but the cover on the cover, I wish I could read. The letter A is red. Is that a nod to the Scarlet Letter?
no, so
That's a great
actually,
question
yeah,
though.
it is a great question, but no, actually, so it's a not like her name like she's trying to find her footing as an angel of of death. Like at first she doesn't think she's for that life. Like she's like that's an ongoing thing. She didn't think she found she wasn't for the gangster life. She doesn't think she's for this life. So it's one of those things where once she it kind of plays on the fact that once she realizes she is for this life, she takes the sickle, like there's blood on the end of her sickle too, and
Yeah,
it's like she put the A in there, like, oh, now I can't, now I belong.
she made it her own.
Yeah,
Nice. I like it. But that was a great question, Lee,
yeah,
because
it was.
nobody, I don't think even I asked, not saying that I'm the end all be all and the smartest person on the earth, but usually I catch little things like that. And that was a great catch on Lee's part.
Yeah, that's
Um,
one Scarlet Letter. That's one of those books that I lie and said I've read,
yes.
but I haven't.
No.
It's right up there with Moby Dick. It's like I have a list. I have a list as an English teacher. I'm supposed to have read certain books,
Yeah.
and
No,
until someone
no.
quizzes me on it,
I read the ones that matter, like 1984.
yeah, well, yeah, that the funny thing is, so I had told my like I met my wife on Match.com, so I had on my description I had said that I read the Da Vinci Code because everyone was reading the Da Vinci Code that year. So
Oh, yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like at that point I'm like I don't read books, so I'm like I'm gonna so I put like I can't keep putting Catcher of the Rye for everything, so
Yeah.
I put the Da Vinci Code on there. And so when the movie came out years later, she said, "Want to go? You want to go see the movie or whatever?" And I said, "Oh, I haven't even read the book." And she goes, "Ah, what else have you lied about?" And so I'm like, oh, right.
Well,
So
nothing, of
yeah,
course.
just don't ask me about Scarlet Letter or Moby Dick.
Yeah. Which that never comes up in conversation.
Right.
So you're safe. So, um, what was I gonna ask? Crap. Oh, you really must love Catcher in the Rye.
Oh yeah.
So
I read it every year, and my students don't know why I get into it so much.
have you ever seen, I think it's the Julia Roberts and oh crap, Mel Gibson movie, Conspiracy Theory?
I, you know what? I did, and that's not one of those lies. I just don't remember enough about it. I remember at the
He
end, like, yeah, he was in like I don't know, there was like a climactic scene at the end where someone was trying to drown him or something. I forget, but
Yeah, don't
yeah,
forget the gravy. He's his character. he was a like a secret operative in some like black ops government thing where they were brainwashing the guys and they, used them as secret operatives. And Julia Roberts, she was like, I think she was a an attorney, and they ended up he turned into like not crazy, but he was crazy because people thought he was crazy
Yeah.
because he was saying stuff that was happening to him, and he made a conspiracy theory like website and these newspapers that went out, and everybody on his newspaper list that got his newsletter died some weird way, and he brought Julia Roberts in on it. Well, come to find out, he was this super secret operative, and Catcher in the Rye was a huge deal. He had like 80 million copies in his apartment that he hoarded all of these other papers and filing cabinets from.
Yeah. So
Uh,
yeah,
that that was crazy.
well, that's what. So
It was a good
whenever
movie.
whenever my students are like, when I say, it doesn't matter. Like every year when I say we're gonna read it, they're like they look at the cover and there's nothing cool on the cover. They're just the words, and they're like, and I'm like, yeah, well, the guy who shot John Lennon had it on him, and they're like, what? Who?
Oh, I think that was part
Yeah,
of something that they included in the movie.
yeah,
Was that the fact that the guy who shot John Lennon had the Catcher in the Rye on him, and I think
right.
that was kind of a point for the movie.
And I
Dungeon
guess,
Dan
I
I'm
guess,
sorry, go ahead.
oh, sorry, I guess the guy that tried to kill Hinckley, the guy that tried to kill Reagan, someone said that he had it on him. I don't know if that was just like
See?
a
It
made up
is a
thing.
real thing.
Yeah, so I told them, I'm like, you know what, this book is banned. You know why? And then they're like, he's like, these
The kids
gang
were like,
members.
"Yeah, let me read it."
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm wowing these gang members with this book was banned.
Yeah.
What have you? Were you? You
Ooh, you're
yeah,
reading banned books.
yeah,
You big tough guy.
right.
Dungeon Dan said, "How can we trust that maybe you watched that movie? You
Well,
couldn't be bothered to read the Da Vinci Code."
that's fair. That's a fair question.
No,
I
it's
did,
not
but I
because the
did
Da Vinci Code's like this thick.
true, and I did say the ending in the pool. I couldn't have just made that up, Dungeon Dan.
Right. But it was a pool. Somebody was drowning him. They flipped him over in a wheelchair.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. They were trying to drown him. And Julia Roberts saved him after she figured out he wasn't crazy. But great movie. If you haven't seen Conspiracy Theory with Mel Gibson and Julia Roberts, that was actually a good movie before she went weird.
Yeah.
But
Am I gonna get a fair enough from Dungeon Dan?
probably.
Feel like I deserve something there.
Yeah. I'm sure he'll have something to say here in a little bit. He's thinking. He was at work all day and they left him alone.
Ew.
So so he they left him alone without any adults, and so he's kind of probably recuperating from that. So, he said fair enough, John. There you go.
Thank you.
Fair enough,
Thank
John.
you, Dungeon Dan.
So so what is your next move? You really don't do or you do Facebook, right?
Yeah, so I'm
People
on.
can find
Yeah,
you on Facebook,
yeah. So
and that's about it.
yeah. Oh no, I'm on. Yeah, it's- I'm on. So I'm on Facebook, John Cady, author, and I'm also on Instagram. Pretty much all of them, like Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, if it's still called Twitter, I don't know. And then
X.
the
Oh, Jesus.
the blue
I
sky
knew
thing.
this was coming. Pornhub?
Pornhub, no. Surprisingly, I'm not on Pornhub. No.
Surprisingly, you had a boring childhood.
Yeah. What is this Pornhub you speak of?
Don't leave it to Dungeon Dan. If you ever get on another show with us, which you will definitely be inviting you back for, he always Pornhub's his thing. So, so, okay, so Twitter slash X. Do you do in like book talk or TikTok? You tickety tack on the tickety tack?
Yeah, so I'm on TikTok, but in the book talk, I thought it was like a separate thing. So I was like Googling that one day and I'm like, can't find that. And my
No,
wife,
it's just hashtag book talk
oh,
in
yeah,
TikTok. Oh my.
I finally found that out and I'm like,
You're
damn,
so adorable. You're so innocent.
yes, yes. I mean, I did
I
know what
love it.
Pornhub was.
I definitely believe you don't know what that is then. So, Angel Ramon says, "Oh, Dungeon Dan wouldn't be a show without him."
Yeah.
Definitely not. And Dan thinks he's hilarious.
Yeah.
We're definitely gonna have to have you on another show of ours again.
Great. Yeah, no, I love that.
Just because you seem like a good time. And we could poke fun of your innocence, and that'd be great.
Absolutely.
So
Look away.
I really appreciate you coming on here today, and especially with every time that I had to move everything. I had to move this guy like twice because of migraines. So, I was complaining about him earlier today. Thank you for being so easy and so willing to come on. We want to help you get your book out there and get readers and have you just blossom into this amazing full-fledged author. Just like for the rest of us, none of us want to work. We all want to write for a living. So we hope that we can at least help facilitate that a little bit. What is obviously next move is more books.
Mhm.
A different genre, or you're just really going to try hard to stick with this particular book and run with the series,
I
or you're
kinda
going to
want
write more?
I kinda wanna run with the series, and I didn't even think about, like, her passing the torch until you said that, so now I'm excited about that possibility at some point. It's it's
You're
one of
welcome.
those things where I hadn't gone into, like, fantasy, and then now that I'm in the fantasy realm, I'm like, "Ooh, you get to do so much with fantasy." Like, you get to
Yes, you do.
build worlds, build off of it and stuff, and so I'm like,
Yes,
I
you do
kinda
not
gonna
have the constraints
yeah,
of normal 3D, 4D society, you know? You
yeah.
have everything at your disposal,
So
and so much.
my goal is to explore that until people will tell me not to, which
10-4. I get you. Um, so I'm really looking forward to reading this book and seeing how it morphs later on down the road. I'm so excited for you.
thank you very
And
much.
you have a huge community here that is more than willing to help you. I know you have your publisher and Josh and Heather. They're both a couple of great people. I know that they're out to help you as much as they possibly can. Feel free to definitely come on, message me. You can message Angel, Dan, any of us. We're more than happy to help you out with anything that you need. Excuse me. We we're there for anyone in the writer community,
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Absolutely, absolutely. You have been the most amazing guest today.
Thank you.
Dungeon Dan says, "Thank you for being a guest. You've been great." And I have to concur. You're so much fun, and we are going to definitely stay in touch. So
Definitely awesome.
make
Thank you
sure
very
we
much.
are friends on Facebook, and we're definitely going to be, oh my God, we're going to do so much for you. And you're going to do so much. You're going to be great. You're going to be able to write 20. I mean, I know we have a guy um who's I think he's on like his 20th book in the
Oh,
series.
wow.
Just cuz he's able to keep it interesting.
Yeah,
And I think if you're able to do that, especially in a fantasy, you can come up with anything.
true, true.
So there you go. But thank you so much for being a guest.
Well, thank you very much for having me, and thank you, Dungeon Dan.
All right, guys, that's it for TBA release party, and I'm done for the day. I am going to bed. So,
Uh,
you guys all have a great day. Enjoy yourselves. And again, thank you so much, John.
Thank you. Take care.
Peace out.
Bye.